there's something about me that has always been very interested in pressing those edges and what are we doing and why are we here and you know, I grew up in that environment where I had a lot of big feelings and things weren't talked about.
Aimee Pedersen, welcome to The Greatest Comeback.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. This is so different to the first. So for those listening, this is take two.
It is take two. Yes, there was a little faux pas.
Yeah, my part.
Yes.
On my part, and Aimee was kind enough to point that out. So here we are again.
Was it kindness? I hope so.
Second introduction.
Yeah.
Firstly, darling, thank you for being on this podcast.
So welcome.
At the risk of repeating myself, the reason, in all seriousness, the reason that I have been looking forward to this conversation is because there's not a lot that you hold back, in my experience. You know, you shoot from the hip and you say what's on your mind and you live this sort of full expression of who you are, and I really respect that about you. And as I've evolved over the years, there's a lot of that I want for me. You know, and I'm also intrigued by the fact that there have been a number of iterations of you.
Yep.
And you're quite open about talking about those iterations and the lessons that you learnt from those periods of your life, where you grew, where you didn't grow. And it occurred to me, with the theme of the podcast being The Greatest Comeback, you know, there's a double meaning there. There is the materialist view of the world, which is, hey, this thing happened to me and I was able to, you know, get the house back or the job back or the girl back or the boy back. But there's also the spiritualist aspect of The Greatest Comeback. And so it's really both of those areas that I wanted to explore with you, principally on the basis that, as I said to you, you appear to be someone that is willing to have the types of conversations that people aren't. You know, and when I thought about the podcast and what I wanted this to be, I thought I want to create a space where I can talk to people and have conversations with them about the stuff that no one's talking about, the stuff that most people are afraid to talk about, because I think there's some alchemy in that for
Absolutely.
other people. You know, there's some alchemy. There's a little bit of medicine in that. And when I was thinking about guests for the podcast, my mind went to you and I thought, Aimee Pedersen. I bet, and not knowing any of your background or history, I thought, I bet she's got some stories. And when I reached out to you, I think your response to me was, oh my God, I've been through the 8 realms of hell.
Sitting at the 9th gate of hell or something like that.
That's what it was. Yeah, that's what it was. So that's the preamble, and that's why I've asked you to be on the podcast. But I think it'd be great to get a flavour as to how you've arrived here. You know, what are those points in your life that you would highlight as being pivotal, challenging, an environment in which you grew. So I don't know. I tend to go to childhood because that tends to be where
all the mess is.
all the stuff that we're dealing with as adults. You know, if you trace the breadcrumb trail back, it's normally childhood. So without necessarily, you know, taking us through each of the grades of primary school, give us a flavour for the type of environment that you were born into and some of those early things that you think now, reflecting upon that period of your life, that kind of shaped you.
Yeah. What a great question. And so much goes through my mind on that one. So I was born in Perth. And 2 absolutely wonderful parents, of course. They are beautiful people, but they both had their challenges. So it was, for me, quite a tumultuous, destabilizing environment. I mean, just from a physical perspective, we lived on a house on the Swan River, and the wind would come in at night and just it would crack every, the walls. And so I would always sleep on the very edge of my bed, thinking that my bed would drop through and I would just get, taken away. So I grew up in a lot of fear, basically. So my foundation didn't feel very strong. And I had, my father was, again, a really wonderful, very outspoken, much like myself, person, life of the party. And I think a lot of my way of meeting the world was shaped by him, because he wasn't afraid to say what he thought. And he was not afraid, sometimes to his own detriment, to upset the apple cart and speak the truth. And there's a real courage in that. So I really respected that in him. And I also was shaped so much through my relationship with my grandmother, who was a very spiritual woman. She saw auras, she read palms, she became a homeopath, like at 80. So she never stopped studying. She talked to me about, the soul and its migration from body to body. And I was just transfixed by this woman and felt so deeply loved. So that was my safe place, was my nan. I used to call her Nanny Poo. She was just, everything to me. And also my mother was very similar as well, very spiritual. We loved talking about philosophy, all that kind of thing. So in that world of not feeling terribly safe, because there was a lot of arguing and things that went on between the two. And from that, I felt a sense of maybe not feeling so held and supported. And I have, some abandonment stuff that we talked about that was really purely emotional because they were both there. But the spiritual aspect really became my bedrock, and I was deeply into prayer. I went to a Catholic convent. I used to go to mass every Thursday lunch without, fail. Usually to pray to win my sporting competition on the weekend. I was negotiating all the time. But, I think that's a really important thing as well. Like, I was brought up Catholic. I'm not Catholic now, but there's something to that gave me a very rich connection to what I now perceive to be the divine. So, and equally, I was very, very good at sport. So there was this consistent drive to better myself, to expand, to... Yes, part of that is egoic and to win and to be on show, because I did feel very fragile and, not enough within that environment. But that also was the making of me as well. It gave me a lot of, as you say, courage and bravery. And there's something about me that has always been very interested in pressing those edges and what are we doing and why are we here? And I grew up in that environment where I had a lot of big feelings and things weren't talked about. And I found that really, really confusing as a young little energy who had so much energy and so many feelings that it was just kind of not embraced and not met and not investigated and pulled apart. And I feel like I've spent my whole life doing that, going into that, those woundings and the things that happened and the layers, and the self-work to me has been a non-negotiable. I'm driven to do it with therapy and healing and group therapy, and because it's also uncomfortable. And I don't know why I love it, but there's a deep appreciation that from the discomfort comes profound bliss and expansion and healing. Yeah. In a nutshell.
That is so good. That's if I could have asked you to say something, I couldn't have expected a better response, because that touches on so many things that I wanted to talk about today.
Good.
But I do want to ask you about your grandmother. I didn't realise that you grew up with a grandmother that was talking to you about souls from a young age.
Nanny Poo.
Nanny Poo.
Yeah. She worked for the Theosophical Society, so I've still got books in my bookshelf that she gave me. One is on reincarnation. I just read it just going, this, because I had the Catholic thing of going, you just go up to heaven and this is da-da-da. And I was like, no, I'm really relating to what my grandmother talks about. And yeah, you know, we used to go over to her house every weekend. She'd always read my palm every week. Can you imagine? Can you read my palm again? But yeah, my whole world was opened up through her lens. Like the book I'm writing, the forward is dedicated to Nan, to Betty Fergie.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, such a beautiful woman.
Because that would have been a difficult thing for a young girl to reconcile. On the one hand, she's going to mass every week and praying to God. And on the other hand, like literally,
Yeah.
her palm's being read.
Yeah, that's so true.
You know?
Yeah, for some reason I kind of straddled it quite well. I think I didn't have any kind of mental challenges around it. I just knew what felt like alignment to me. And I was also really down with JC. I thought Jesus was amazing. Still do. Like an incredible spiritual leader. So I sort of, you know, often just sometimes I joke that like Jesus was kind of like my first boyfriend. Like I had a relationship with what that was and loved that, and still was able to be, you know, with my grandmother and talking about Buddhism, and like her books were crazy and just, you know, pouring through that whole world. So I think I was, you know, they say that the soul chooses its birth, and I absolutely believe that. And having said that, also chose the challenging stuff as well. Like I grew up with a lot of anger around, particularly relationship with my dad, which is now really good. But I think we have to blame intelligently, you know, like, because it's like all the gifts that relationship gave me, and that man and who he is, and also the shadow aspect of it as well. Same with my relationship with mother. It's the same. It's the gift, and it's also a challenge.
Yeah, yeah. How did you find sport?
How did I find it?
How did you find it? Was it just something your parents pushed you
No,
into?
I was just
you were just a sporty kid?
I was just good at it, yeah. So, well, I started with ballet, but I had just way too much energy for that. And I don't even know how or who got me into gymnastics, but I was straight in there, and I was just flipping, and I think I was the youngest girl to do a back salt on the beam in West Australia at that time. Like it was just something that I just had a natural affinity to, and running was the same. I just could always run really fast and loved it because I just had so much energy. You know, I was quite hyperactive. And that's how I think upon reflection, I don't think this would have been conscious at all, but that emotional stuff, I got big feelings. So I think the sport really helped me mollify those feelings and calm them down a little bit, because it was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I was sort of alluding to, is that I'm picturing this young girl who grew up not necessarily feeling very safe, but also feeling things deeply. Maybe sport was that thing that you needed at the time to give you some structure and an anchor point.
Absolutely. It was catharsis for sure.
Yeah.
And also it gave me a sense of self, because I was quite just a fragile, sensitive little soul. So when I was winning and performing, I felt like I knew who I was. Which turns out to be not so great as I start growing up. Of course, it's not a one thing it's not an identity that you want to stick with as the winner, because it eventually stops working.
Yeah.
But it gave me a strong container to be the athlete. That's for sure. And also I felt like I was always winning my dad, and that was important to me because I found it hard to get his attention and keep it. Like I remember being little and, you know, coming out dressed, you know, up in the costume and just dancing to try and get his attention. And I'd be like, Daddy, 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 I'm like, you know, and he's just like watching the football. And, you know, he's just being a man and having probably what he needed, time with himself doing, you know, his thing. But I was constantly craving just a gaze from him. And I got that through sport.
And what I mean, it strikes me that you've always had a relationship with your body, like that early entry into gymnastics and running, in some way, shape, or form, that relationship with your body and using your body is something that's continued throughout your adult life.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
How important would you say that your relationship with your body has been over the years?
It's an interesting thing because I do have a strong relationship with my body, but I've really, really, really pushed her and hurt her in many ways. I say her because obviously it's almost like this tender part of myself that I'm now learning to look after in a way that is much more well, because when I was an athlete, it was all about really pushing that, consistently pushing the limits constantly. And you're taught to do that as an elite athlete, and that's what you've got to do to get there. And it's intense. And I really took that challenge and went for it all the time. I was so driven with the desire to be the best. And having said that, there was a great joy in the fact that I could run so fast and I could climb that tree and effortlessly. Like I just had that natural ability to be able to do those things.
Yeah.
It was only really through yoga that I learned to be in it rather than it's just something I'm, exercising stuff out with or that I'm using to achieve with. But, yoga helped me actually to drop into my body. And I remember I was at drama school when we first started doing yoga and I was like, this is bullshit. Like I hated it so much. We'd come into those hip openers and I would just weep. And I honestly went into drama school thinking I didn't have any problems. I remember someone said to me, because they went to the same drama school, they said, oh, they'll crack you open. I went, I got nothing to crack open. I'm an open book. Just absolutely, completely self-deluded. So yeah, yoga really cracked me open and it was the beginning of a lot of healing for me. And I learned to, and I'm still learning this. I wouldn't say that I've nailed this at all, but I'm still learning to look after my body in a way that is a little bit more gentle and tender and kind and in the spirit of gratitude.
Yeah.
Rather than, come on, man, like you got to do better than that. Like my father used to say, you're only as good as your last race. And that has been a mantra that I've lived by. Every yoga class, I'd come out and people would be like, that was great. And there would be something inside of me that go, but I'm only as good as there's a pressure that the next time they're in class, I've got to do even better. I think elite sport sets you up in such a great way to be able to meet life from bravery and courage and all of that sort of stuff. But the self-whipping that comes from it and that constantly having to beat your own personal best shows up everywhere. And it's exhausting.
What was your, as an elite athlete, what was your event?
400.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a bastard.
That is yeah.
I wasn't quite fast enough for one.
event.
I started with ones and twos, but I didn't really have the start for the ones. So I did twos and fours. And I ran for Australia in 91 for the World Juniors in the relay with Kathy Freeman. Yeah.
Okay.
I ran first, she ran last.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't place.
Wow.
Yeah, by the time she got the baton, it was too far behind.
How old were you then?
I was 18.
18, okay.
Yeah, 17, 18. I think I won the Nationals the year before at 17.
Okay. So as a youngster that's obviously performing at an elite level and you're moving through the ranks, right? And you clearly you can see that you're being asked to race at higher levels. Did you have a sense that was your thing? That's what you wanted to do?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
you were going to be an athlete?
Yeah, look, I was a state gymnast and then a state springboard diver as well. So I did a lot of sport. I was very tired at school. I was amazed that I got into uni, to be honest, because I was just exhausted because I did a lot of training. But yeah, it was the thing. It was the thing. I wanted to compete and compete at a high level. Yeah, it really drove me for a long time. And the interesting thing is, when I got to run for Australia, it was in Korea, in Seoul, it was this incredibly surreal thing because you watch it on TV and you're up on that big screen. When you run first, there's a lot of screen time, so my ego was loving it. And they announce you and you wave and all that sort of stuff. And we raced And then I remember sitting in the stands just going, is that it? Because I felt such a palpable letdown. And I trained for it my whole life. But it wasn't what I wanted, really, in the end. Yeah. I think that's a soul level thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got massively injured anyway, so
Yeah.
I kind of got knocked out.
And how did that part of your life finish?
Okay, so I went out one New Year's Eve. It was the same year after I ran for Australia, and I got very, very drunk because athletes are big drinkers, by the way, just so you know. It's a big part of the culture.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah, like race, go out, drink. It's quite a big part of it. Anyway, so I got very, very drunk that New Year's Eve, and I was running up some stairs, and I slipped, and I broke the fifth metatarsal, which is notorious for not healing, and sort of carried on actually that night, hobbling around. And then I went home, and I just remember this so distinctly because I fainted on the toilet, and my dad had to come in. I sometimes still shudder at that moment, because I'm on the floor, and I was in so much pain, and then taken to the hospital. It was quite a bad break, and 6 months later I was still limping. So then I ended up getting a pin put in it. Then I was attempting to make a comeback, and so I did a lot of pool running, which is torture. And I was training for the heptathlon, which I think probably if I'd stuck with it would have been my event because I was quite a good all-rounder. But then my shins were giving me so much grief to the point where I got an MRI, and they just had stress fractures through them all, and through both shins. And you know what? When they told me, I was so relieved because I just went, this is my out. Interesting. Right.
Had you been looking for one, do you think, in hindsight?
No, I don't think so. I think that I was just fulfilling my what I thought was my dharma. Yeah, I was just, even though I was not loving it at that point, and part of that was I was starting to not win, because I was growing up, I was becoming a woman. I mean, it really interrupts things quite a bit. So it was quite a big shift. But also I've been doing it for so long, and it's such a high level and that immense amount of training. I was tired, and I wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I really had very fun. I mean, of course I had a fun childhood. There were fun moments, but because you're an athlete, a lot of it's just work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was, and then I went absolutely crazy.
Was that a difficult conversation with your dad? Because
100%. I broke his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I mean, I feel a bit teary about it now, because I think and perhaps he was right. I don't know. He said, we've talked about it much later, but he thought, I really thought you could have gone, the whole way. And I'm like, maybe not. I don't know. It certainly felt like my body was breaking, and not necessarily designed for it. Like I felt like it was tired and ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I would imagine that not only are you...
He was angry though.
Was he?
Yeah, he was angry and disappointed and upset.
Yeah.
And that was very hard for me.
Yeah.
Because of course everything I was doing was to win his approval.
Yeah.
So it was quite a big... that's why I was relieved about the stress fractures though, because I had something to say, look, I'm injured. So it wasn't so much I'm quitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's also the thing that bonds the two of you.
Absolutely.
I would imagine too, that was your thing together.
Yes.
And without that, how do we connect?
Yes, because I used to come home from training and I'd be like, I did a personal best, and we would connect over that. And then I also remember being little and I was so strong, and he'd be like, oh, you do a handstand against the wall and do push-ups, because he was also very good swimmer. He did gymnastics in Denmark.
We'll get rid of that.
He was a gymnast in Denmark. So, I think he could see a lot of himself in me, and vice versa. I could see a lot of myself in him as well, even at a young age. So I'd do anything he said, push-ups, handstand push-ups, anything. And I would always be able to do it just out of sheer will.
Yeah.
I will impress this man, So yeah, that was really big, stepping away from that, because then what's our relationship? And we actually, when it did dissolve, I learnt that our relationship was also built on humour. because he's a very funny bloke, and we have that in common. We love a laugh and a storytelling as well. He's great at telling jokes and stories. And so there's a lot more there than I knew when I was little. But because for me, it's that. And he won't love me unless I'm winning. And it turns out he loves me no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so many people can relate to that. They might not be athletes.
Yeah, but there's always something.
There's always something.
There's
right?
always something. Yeah,
there's
for
always
sure.
something. You said that's part of your motivation for maybe moving on was the fact that you were becoming a woman, that you wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
What did that look like for you when you finally left that world of athletics behind?
Okay. Well, think about being kept in like this tiny little container, and you're like, oh wow, this is like, it's really intense in here. It's like a pressure cooker, and then all of a sudden it just goes, poof. That was what it was like. It was like I was out all the time. I started working in a bar, so then there was more alcohol, and drugs came into the whole picture. I mean, Perth in the 90s, it was, it was a hot spot. It was a fun kind of town. And I just loved it. I loved dancing. I ended up dancing in nightclubs for money, which makes me sound like a stripper, but I wasn't a stripper. I wasn't wearing a lot, though. I was wearing the little hot pants and the boots and the fishnets and, because I loved it. I loved the dancing, but I also loved the attention, because to me it was the same as being on the blocks, on the, podium. I was getting the same kind of fulfillment by being seen. So I just sort of swapped it out. And I did really go quite hard. Loved it.
Yeah. How long would you say you were in that mode of living?
That particular gear, because there are a few, couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got engaged to a drug dealer.
Okay.
So, I mean, we were massively in love, but sometimes I contemplate how much of that was drug fueled and how much of that was, it was so young. And I met this beautiful man with this lovely curly hair, and he was so theatrical, right? And he had done a lot of theatre, and I had secretly had this desire that I never told anyone, that I wanted to be an actor. I'd never tell anyone that, but it sat inside me. So I was kind of very drawn to him because of that. But, I was a kid in a candy store. So we were out pretty much from Wednesday through to Sunday, and then we'd rest Monday, Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this fabulous couple who were out dancing, and that's how it felt. It probably looked so messy from the external. But I mean, I remember taking my first ecstasy and thinking I'd found my purpose. And I don't think that's wrong, because it was expansion, and it was opening. And yes, you're using a chemical to get there, but I think that is what yoga and meditation is ultimately bringing us to, is that sense of, I'm so beyond this bondage, and I'm in the field. And that to me was that experience. And I was like, give me some more of that. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what point did you realize that wasn't serving you?
Well, I moved from, that relationship ended because it got so messy, as it does when that's the foundation. And I ended up leaving Perth because I thought Perth was the problem, because Perth did have a pretty ferocious drug culture. I don't know what it's like now, but back in the early 90s, it was hardcore. So I thought, I'll just get out of, it's called a geographical. You think, I'll just move and everything will be fine. So I moved to, well, first I went and danced on a cruise ship in in Singapore, and I got fired because I was partying so much, and I'd often make mistakes because I was drunk on stage and things like that. So, we did an onboard production of Beauty and the Beast. And I was plate. That's what I was. I was a plate. So I was wearing a big plate thing. And then you had the whole cutlery section, which were Filipino singers. They were so beautiful. But sometimes I was,
Filipinos can sing, man.
oh man,
They can sing.
they
Oh my God.
were insane. Just the most beautiful people. I would hang out with them. But all the plates were at the front and I'd be at the back, just stuck in the cutlery. Like just. So eventually I got pulled into the office and they were like, I think it's best that you leave. You're obviously, taking things a bit far with the partying. They paid me 10,000 US to leave.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Were you at sea at the time?
Well, we'd go out for like a couple of days and come back. So, and all of that was like not taxed, right? Because you're on international waters. So I just went, okay. It's like, all right. And so with that money, I went, I'm moving to Sydney.
Okay.
Right. So again, it's following me, right? So I'm thinking, because I was like, oh, it's just drugs. That's the problem. So I'll just get away from that. But then, I was obviously just drinking on the ship and it's an interesting thing because I can't remember who said this recently, but I was listening to someone and he said, people tend to ask why the addiction and rather than asking why the pain. And so I was just in a lot of pain. And I moved to Sydney and I started working in hospitality. I went to drama school. But hospitality in Sydney at that time was kind of like Perth. So again, you do a geographical and it's just you end up in the same place because you're just you with you. So I just hit the road running when I was here. When I found out that it was a problem was I went out one night and got very, very hammered with a work colleague. And I woke up in my apartment and there was someone on my couch and I didn't know who they were. And I just freaked out and I put my dressing gown on, blue polka dot dressing gown of all things, and ran through King's Cross. And because this is like Saturday morning. I can't believe I'm telling the story, but it's a good one. Saturday morning, Potts Point, so the markets were on. I'm running through in tears to my friend. There's someone there. We go to the police station and turns out it was the guy that I'd been with all night, but I couldn't recognize him. That's how.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a drug, what do you call it, psychosis. So I was like, that's a problem. That's a problem, yeah. So I went to, even though I think more than anything drugs were my thing, I went to AA with a friend. So yeah, that was my first introduction to 12-step, which was amazing. Yeah. It's a very incredibly powerful journey. Yeah, getting clean and sober, because it's not just putting down drugs and alcohol or whatever your poison is. It's about the full going into yourself and the meeting all the layers and talking about them and meeting the parts of you that feel so much shame and fear and not enoughness, and that's what you have sponsors for, and then you make amends to everyone you hurt. And so it's such a deep, I was going to say cleanse, but that's probably not the right word. It's a deep medicine. Because I was telling you before that a student asked me many years ago, I really want to teach like you do. How did you get there? And I was like, do you really want to know? Like, no, first of all, no one can follow the path that you've done because it's completely unique. But that 12-step era, and I was in the meetings very strongly for about 10 years. I don't do them now because they got to a point where I went, I don't identify as that anymore. I don't identify as an addict, and I don't anymore. So that's just my journey. So I'm not for 1 second telling anybody out there who is in those rooms, hey, just stop. But for me, it got to a point where identifying as that daily felt more damaging.
Yes.
So, for me, it was like, what's the next level? And that to me was the spirituality and the yoga and the deep meditation, all that sort of stuff. But yes, a massive part of, and I teach from that place a lot. A lot of what I teach, I learned in 12-step programs. They channeled that. They channeled it for sure.
Was there anything in particular that stood out for you in the 12-step program that you still carry with you today?
Yeah, handing over to a higher power, for sure. Like every day, I'm not in charge. Like I'm in co-creation. I have a certain amount of will. that's there, but I'm co-creating with the divine, and my job is to remember that, and the practices are to remember that, and I fundamentally teach that as a yoga teacher. I'm always about super consciousness, or whatever you want to call it. In the Yoga Sutra, Patanjali very intelligently calls it Ishwara, because Ishwara means to the God of your understanding, which is exactly what they say in 12 step. So it's, for me, it was that surrender, because at the point I went into the rooms, and it's God, 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 and there was such a recoil, in that, because I had the Catholic thing, and I was like, oh man, I'm not into this. But when it got explained to me that you just find your relationship with what that is, and then it was just such a beautiful remembering. It was a recognition that it's just never not there. We just forget. And they say that we're looking for spirit in the wrong way. We pick up drinks and we pick up drugs, but we're looking for what we already have. So that's the biggest. I mean, there's so much that I've learned from there, but that's the main one.
So when does acting make a play for you in your life?
When?
Yeah. At what point are you still in that world of addiction when acting is?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So I went to drama school and was still drinking and drugging a lot at that time because I was in hospitality. So they were just,
They kind of go hand in hand.
they do go hand in hand. It was just like a perfect storm, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a big part of that. And I broke my foot again the second time at drama school. Same bone, same, just further down. Drunk. Why do I keep getting that lesson? Of, it's kind of like, kids, there's a little tap on the shoulder and then there's a bit of a smack, and then, and unless you're listening, then it's going to be bigger. So that was a big one, because I missed out on a lot of things, again, from the same teaching. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of your acting career, that was obviously something that was important to you. It's at some stage, I would imagine that you thought that was going to be it, right?
Yeah, totally. So when I went to drama school, I was like, well, this is first of all, I loved it. It kind of is the same as sport. I loved it. And then the other part of it was I wanted to be seen. So, you talk to any actor, if they get real, they want to be seen, because there's something inside of them that doesn't feel that they are, or they don't feel enough. So then when you're on stage and you're getting applause, and it fills you up momentarily, right? But it's always going to, the show ends, you go home, and you're on your own again. So, yeah, I loved it. And I didn't have this amazing career. I did a lot of TV commercials, so I was always cast as a mum for some reason with the washing machine, and so I did a lot of ads, so I made quite a lot of money in the beginning. And then you asked the question about 12 step. One of the things that you what is one of those things that you really take with you? It's surrender is one, like to surrender the outcome of things. And it got to the point where I was auditioning all the time, and I went, you know what, I'm so done. I was teaching yoga a little bit on the weekends. And I'm just going to devote myself to teaching yoga. And I literally got an audition like 2 days later, TV series. It comes through getting those freaking hands off the steering wheel, because I wanted it so badly for like 10 years. I'm like, rah. And then I finally go, you know what? And really meant it. I'm done. Like, this obviously isn't right for me. Bam.
Wow.
It's like cruel trick.
And what was that? What was that series?
That was Crownies.
Okay.
Yeah, on the ABC. So that only went for a year, and then it became Janet King. Yeah, which I did. So I did the first season of Janet King.
Because that would be regarded as success for an actress.
Well, I felt, it's funny, because I remember saying to my mother, I felt like if this is all I do, then I feel like I'm good. Yeah. And it interestingly turned out to be the end. So it's a funny thing. And that moment where I was sitting in the stands and I went, is this it? The exact same thing sitting on set. Because you're sitting around waiting for most of the time, you know, most of the time just waiting for lighting and stuff. And then you get on, you do your thing, and then you're waiting again. And I literally just went, is this it? Same thing. Thought this was what I really wanted. So that's one thing I've really learned through my life is you may want something, but it might not necessarily be what you think it is
Yeah.
when you finally get there, or what you want at all, right? So that's, again, it's that certain level of I'm going to do my best and follow my joy, because when you're doing what you love, then that's the success, right? That's it. Joy is the ultimate mark of success. But as an athlete and as an actor, I didn't really have that. I really wanted to get to these places, and I've really learnt that that's not a winning formula.
Had you started to see that pattern in your life? Like, if I reflect upon each of these chapters of your life, there was the Aimee, the athlete, that was looking for validation.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I think you mentioned that you were the it couple with the guy in Perth. You know,
Yes, absolutely.
There was you as the actress.
Mm-hmm.
But all of these experiences, they gave you validation, but it was finite. Was there a point in time where you're kind of looking at these things that you're doing, which in and of themselves are amazing? You know, elite athletics, having the agency and self-confidence to want to appear on screen. But there was also, you know, to your point, there was also always something there that didn't quite find the mark for you. You know, in terms of the finite nature of what you were feeling when you were doing these things.
Yeah.
How did that lesson culminate in the self-knowledge that the answer really is, it's not out there?
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a certain ember of that with my relationship with my grandmother, but it was intellectual. Like, I understood that, you know, there was more to life and the soul's journey and all that sort of stuff. But I don't think through those incarnations it was very conscious. And it's funny because you were just saying, you know, doing those, it's pretty amazing to do those things. And a part of me still goes, is it? Like, because I don't really recognize it as something really fabulous, because I still relate to the part of me at that time that was really just not feeling like anything was good enough, even when I won. You know, it's funny, when I won the Australian Championships, I remember my father taking all of these photos, and then the film didn't work, and I wept like crazy because I so wanted to see, I feel like crying now, myself through his eyes.
Yeah.
You know, and I never.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and there are some photos of him with the camera, and I cherish those. But yeah, I was always, I think, seeking that to be seen, and nothing was ever really enough. And which I think is why I got to run for Australia. And I went, is this it? And I was on TV and I went, is this it? Because it's not ultimately fulfilling unless you have, and this is what I teach in yoga all the time, is a connection to something that is ultimately so fulfilling. And it doesn't matter what you do. You can sit on a couch for the rest of your life and achieve fuck all from a Western society perspective and still be such a valid, rich, wonderful human being.
Yeah.
You know? And I think I didn't have that but I knew I was chasing. But I thought that I would get it at some point, somewhere. But I think I got all those beautiful lessons that even if you get it, it's still a finite thing. It's still going to move through. So you better start anchoring to something that's not finite, that won't shift and won't change. And that's when I started to find a lot more joy. And that's why I loved teaching yoga. I became a teacher because it kept me in the practice. I have to remind myself every week because I'm teaching it. So I think it really saved me on so many levels. And I did my first teacher training, and I dropped out. So it was about 2 months or a month to go for the exam. And I said, that's it, I'm done. I want to be an actor. I'm out. So there was something in my soul that was like, we're not done messing up yet. You know, you got to get out there. A little bit more pain required, like really hit that rock bottom before you can actually, you know, be ready for what you are kind of playing with a little bit over here. And then, you know, mess, a second engagement, mess. And then I rang my teacher who was part of that teacher training. I said, I don't know what to do. I'm back in this same place, you know, the same old stories, the same pain, the same habits. And she said, why don't you finish that teacher training? I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That old thing, that old chestnut. So I did. I came back into another teacher training with a few months to go and met a whole new group of people, which was amazing, and got that done. But what's funny about that is I remember going out one night and again partying too hard and not being able to make one of the sessions. And I was like, you know, slumped over the toilet. And I had a real moment of, okay, you want to go this way or this way? Because it's like drinking, drugging, partying, breaking bones, you know, because I broke my nose as well, drinking and drugging. Or do you want to actually wake up and get this and be more healthy? And then I did choose the latter.
How did you break your nose?
I was at a I was at a 16th birthday party out in the bush in Perth, and square dancing, and I was like pretty pickled by then, to put it lightly, and I was just going in the opposite direction to everyone else. And, you know, having a grand old, I was class clown, of course, so playing, having a lot of fun, and I just cracked my face into someone's face, head, I don't know. And then I went out to the bathroom, my nose was just like, I was like, oh, that's new. Yeah. But I broke it a second time falling out of an arm balance. Yoga.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was interesting.
In class?
No, I was at a teacher training and I was exhausted and my body was not up for it. It needed to quit because you do a lot of yoga in a teacher training, as you would know. And it was an arm balance I'd never even done before. And I was like, I can do it. You know, this is that aspect of the athlete that's not so healthy. And yeah, I fell out of it and I cracked my face and I had to go to the Balinese hospital. It's in the book I'm writing. It's actually quite a very, very funny story. So I'm sitting there with ice on my face through the traffic, 2 hours to the hospital. And I finally get seen by a doctor and he comes in and he goes, oh, it's fine. We'll just get a little hammer and we'll just like bash it, knock it into place. I was like, are you for real? He's like, madam, it's fine. You know, it's fresh. We can do it while it's fresh. Then he left me to think about it and I was like, I don't know about this. Like I really needed someone else. And then another guy comes in with a syringe full of something and he goes to jab me in the arm. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, oh, wrong person. And that to me was the moment. It was like, get out of there. So I ended up getting it actually fixed. Okay. With a skilled surgeon, not a hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you discover yoga at the right time, do you think?
100%. Yeah, for sure. Hated it. I love that I hated it. I love that I hated the thing that became, you know, the thing that I love so much. But it was just so painful for my physical body, you know, because weights, I mean, we trained so hard and lifted so heavy that I was just so tight, full of physical, emotional tension.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. I think it saved me. And I went straight from drama school into Bikram. That's what I did for...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever do Bikram?
Yeah.
I mean, people bag Bikram and, you know, let's not get into the story about the individual, but the practice has saved a lot of people. So I don't want to bag that. And I remember I was, you know, there was the mirrors and I was about this close to the mirror and I was like, right. And I exercised so many demons in that horribly stinky hot room. But I did treat it almost like an addiction. So it got pretty unhealthy. I did 2 60-day challenges back to back. That's a lot. So again, it's that just doing everything just a little bit too much, you know,
Was that what drew you to yoga? Was it the opportunity to yet again excel in something?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it was physical. I was strong. It, especially the Bikram thing, because it was so popular at the time, and it was a way to be really good at something. I wanted to get really good at it. But I wasn't very flexible, and I'm still not very flexible. There's just too much sport in this body to really be I was never one of those bendy people, which is neither good nor bad. You know, as you know, yoga is a state of being, so doesn't even matter. But it led me to my first teacher training, and that's where I started to soften a bit, even though I quit and went back.
By soften, do you mean you started to find yourself drawn more to the teachings?
Yes. So it was an interesting thing because I remember going to the first, they do like a teacher training intro session. And I remember being there going, I'm not going to be able to do this because I can't even sit cross-legged. And I said, my fear is that I can't be a teacher because I've got so many physical challenges. And they were like, well, that will probably make you a good teacher. So I was like, okay, well, it was kind of my first moment of thinking, maybe this isn't actually about achieving in the physical form. And then I fell in love with philosophy because I felt like I was back with my grandmother again, you know, who was just like, to me, the ultimate teacher. I mean, I'm certain she's been a spiritual teacher in past lives. When you talk about the soul, she just was a natural, loving space holder. But yeah, I fell in love with the philosophy. And because people asked me, well, how did you learn to theme? And I said, I didn't. I just never learned it. It was just something that if I was preparing a class, I wanted to talk about something. I wanted to talk about what we're struggling with as human beings, or how the practice can liberate us, or that to me is the juice. It is so exciting to me every day that we have a practice that can help us just inquire about what we're doing, and how am I, as this object of study, how am I keeping myself in knots and chains, and how can I move towards liberation? I mean, liberation is such a big word, isn't it? But, you know, towards freedom, even on a minuscule, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, you know.
What does that mean to you, liberation?
It's a powerful question. I think it means to be free from the things that we connect to that we think are who we are. So like the physical body, the identity, the winner, the whatever they are, you know, everyone's got their thing. I mean, because we were talking in the car, and I often think about it. It's kind of the thing I always go to is like, am I really going to care about this when I'm on my deathbed? What am I going to think about? It's because we're so bound to the things that mean nothing ultimately, you know. And I watch my own mind get, God, this is so important. And then that always brings me back, 'cause most of it's not. And to me, well, first of all, a moment of presence is liberation. So it's right there. You know, they say the truth hides in plain sight. There's no distance to travel. It's right there. It's right there in the Atta, the first word of the Yoga Sutra. It's now. Now, now, now. But yeah, that to me is liberation. And what I love about yoga is I don't have to rely on anyone else. That it's such a journey of self. That doesn't mean I don't have teachers, because I do. I think every yoga teacher needs teachers.
Yeah. So interesting. It's funny listening to you talk about your life, and it's uncanny to me the number of times I see evidence for the person sitting in front of me in a story about their childhood. You know, hearing you talk about your grandmother, you know, there's a generational connection to source, the divine soul. Yeah. Whether you could articulate that in those terms at that age or not, probably not, right? But that was at play early on in your childhood. Yeah. And the other thing that occurs to me that was at play was you had a father that was outspoken, that believed in his thoughts, his ideas, enough to give them voice, you know, irrespective of
being liked,
you know.
Because he was is polarizing, because he's still around, as a personality. You love him or hate him is kind of the, you know, and he taught me to be brave like that.
Yeah. And I guess I bring your father up because I see aspects of the character that you described to me in you, you know.
Oh, I'm definitely my father's daughter.
The bravery, the courage. And, you know, as I've kind of walked us through this series of identities: so the athlete, the pogo dancer, the actress, the yogini. Did I
Yes.
get that right? Yeah.
Yogini, yeah.
Thank you.
Yoganini.
Yogi, yeah, I know, right? Where did that come from?
It's so cute.
There's I guess there's a pre-COVID yogini named Aimee Pedersen and a post-COVID
Yeah,
yogini.
definitely.
Are you comfortable talking about this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, when it comes to, the greatest comeback, it's a pretty big one.
Well, that seems to be, talking to you in the car and in the cafe, that seems to be the thing that there's still a mark there, it feels to me when I talk to you about this,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, gosh, it was such a incredibly challenging, painful time, but talk about the stripping of what we're attached to and getting what you need as a soul, then that was definitely a big learning curve.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
more than that, it was absolutely crippling at times.
For people that are listening, obviously, what we're referring to here is that when COVID comes along, you're fairly outspoken in terms of your views when it comes to the vaccine, right? I don't think we should be getting it. And
Well, I thought people should be able to choose. So
Right.
just to be clear, I wasn't anti it, but I was definitely anti being told to do it,
yeah,
and that everyone should be able to choose for themselves
yeah.
around that.
But even then, the yoga community really rallied around the idea that people should be getting vaccinated, and
Majority.
You know what I mean? And so the fact that you were outspoken about this reminds me of aspects of your father, right?
Who interesting was he was on the other side.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Not on my perspective at all.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
But you were
But
brave
we're
enough.
used to going at it together. We're used to punching on, so that was
But I mean that's a conversation that you can have at home. But like you felt so strongly about this
Yeah, I did.
that you went public with this.
Yeah, and I can't even tell you. I was deeply driven to do that. I don't know.
Do you know why?
I don't. But it was. I felt that there was such an overarching push from the yoga community in the other direction, and there was just no way that I was going to be doing that. And I only literally just started by being, again, it comes back to being what is authentically true for me. And that's such an important aspect of having been through everything with the, 12 stepping and all that sort of stuff. And what I've learned is that's how I want to live. So I didn't come out as any kind of, great crusader at the beginning. I was just literally speaking about my choice and why. And I certainly didn't expect what I got. I didn't know that I was going to receive so much backlash for that.
What was the response?
It was vicious. Like I got personal messages about, how awful I am and, how disappointed people were in me and that I would never teach again. And some people would write messages like, I hope you die and stuff like that. And it was pretty intense. But there was just a part of me that went, I can hold this. I can hold it. Because I was also getting other messages from people saying, thank you for speaking out. This is tearing my family apart. And I take solace in your daily messages and things like that and stuff like that. And, I've been reflecting on it since we spoke in the cafe about it. And would there be things that I would do differently? Yeah, sure, I would. But ultimately, I don't have any regrets around the position that I took.
Yeah. Do you think attitudes have changed since then in relation?
100%.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think they have. There was and I feel like I knew that would happen and that we just had to ride it out because I understand it completely. There was a lot of fear and there was excuse me, and there was a lot, going on. And when we're, when we're pressed, everything comes out that's inside of us. Beautiful Wayne Dyer, he says, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice. So when you get, it's not going to be pineapple juice, it's what's inside it. So when we get squeezed, what comes out is what's inside us, of us, the good, the not so good, the beautiful, the ferocious, all of it, right? So I think there was an appreciation that we were all getting squeezed. But I did get to a point where I would, if someone would send me something vicious, I would just say, thank you for your message. It continues to show me that I'm a warrior. Then I would send it and then I would block them. Right? I wouldn't get into it anymore. I was just like, look, I'm really clear about, and I was also clear that I was possibly going to lose everything, and I did. I lost all my money. I was talking about the retreat that I had booked, and then the retreat center went bankrupt. So I owed all the participants, 15 people, $1,000, which I didn't have, and then paid it all back. And I was working as a kitchen hand in, where was that? Out near Cogra, in a cafe, just thinking my life's over, and really had moments, and my physical body started really showing that. The cortisol was so intense because I had to borrow money, and it was a really, really hard time. And then, of course, the studios opened and I couldn't go in them. And there's that, I think we all want to feel that we belong, and all of a sudden there was sort of not a belonging, and that was really quite challenging as well.
Well, I would imagine it wasn't just a place where you felt that you belonged. It was a place where you were able to help people, but you were, I guess the theatrical aspect of you, because when I've ever done a class with you, that's what I get from you. Is I get the teaching, but I also get the theatre, which is part of the package, right?
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that not only did you lose the connection of community, but you lost the opportunity to do this thing that you love doing and that you're really good at.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and there was a lot of sadness around perhaps never regaining my former glory, because I went down in a blaze of glory. There was a lot of fear around that. I was just, thinking that there was times when I couldn't walk because, your feet are your root chakra, right? So the sense of security and stability and home, and that's all of that. And I had such nerve pain. It's completely gone now because obviously I'm back into a secure place, but I could hardly walk with it. It was just such shooting pain through my feet that was happening on the daily, and with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So it was very hard.
How did you find your way through that? How did you come back from that?
I think I came back through it. It's hard to say, but I stuck to yoga because I was like, well, maybe I won't ever be able to teach in a studio again. So I set up my own online studio at that point, and then I was filming. I have a whole library now from that time, and it's interesting looking at those classes because I'm teaching about what's happening in the world as well, and also I did a lot of social media, so I did a lot of talking about what was happening in the world, absolutely. So I certainly got quite political about it at times, but also just what was happening through the lens of these teachings. That's what I kept coming back to. So I kind of got through it that way, and also just pure grit as well, that I would find a way to do what I love in maybe another format, because perhaps it turned out that I could go back to studios. We didn't know at that time, but it took a complete burning down of like setting it on fire and walking away and going, that's actually done, to then start rethinking what can it be and what can we do. And because I guess I have quite a I don't stay down for long. Yeah, and I guess that comes from being an athlete. I don't know, or maybe from my parents, because I think they're both like that, my mother included. It's like there's an optimism there, and I think that held me. And also, so many people were also very supportive. You know, I told you about that, the student that sent me the If poem by Rudyard Kipling.
Yeah.
You know, and that was really, because I had to face my biggest fear, which was, well, I think this is everyone's biggest fear, but you tell me, public humiliation, not being loved at all, in fact, being despised. And also, I went from being like not an angel, but certainly someone who was seen as doing all these good things in the community to a villain. I was a villain.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. And look, I'm a tantrika, so there's a part of me that, I mean, tantra is all about also exploring the shadow. So there was a part of me that was like, okay, well, this is what I need to sit with. I need to sit with the acute discomfort of being the villain in some people's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And disappointing a whole community of people. And not disappointing others, you know, because it was so polarizing. So, you know, there was definitely support, but it was, you know, we were of the minimum.
Yeah.
You know, the minority is the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Yeah.
I play with the idea of, you know, these moments, they come in in everyone's lives, these challenging moments. And for the largest part of my life, I thought these things are just happening to me. You know, these are just things that are happening to me, and geez, I've got bad luck, don't I? You know? But, you know, the same thing happens over and over again, and you start to think, hang on a second.
What's going on?
What's going on here? Do I have a little part to play in this? And it got me thinking, you know, how necessary is the burning it all down in life? I'd love to get your view on that, because I think, you know, at 53 years old, I'm thinking, oh, the good stuff only happens after you've burnt stuff down. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Death, rebirth. It's so necessary. It's so important. It is, and I've learned to really embrace that. And a part of me not only embraces it, but is really interested in it. And that's why I don't fear it. And perhaps that's why I took such a big stand at that time publicly, because maybe I knew I could hold the burning down. I don't know, but that we have to shed. Like, you know, we're constantly shifting and changing, and we can cling so hard to old incarnations of who we were, and we're this, and that's the story, and this is my identity, and we cling and we harden and we're fixed. Well, that ain't nature, right? It doesn't stay stuck. It doesn't like it. It doesn't like to stagnate. So if we do that as an expression of nature, because that's what we are, then we're going to get pushed into destruction, because they talk about it in the yogic teachings all the time: creation, sustaining, dissolving. If you're not consistently, consciously destroying, then life will do it for you. So if you want to make the destruction less out there, do it more in here, which is always that practice. Can I dissolve this attachment to how I think it should be, and to this attachment that life is happening to me, because it's never happening to us. And, you know, we go from that arc from this life is happening to me to life is happening for me. But it's more. And then we go, oh, life's not happening for me. Life's happening through me. And then there's more. We go, oh, life's not even happening through me. Life's happening as me. Right? So there's this beautiful, and we can't get to that point unless we have death, destruction, constantly allowing those parts of us to go and be reformed. And that's what our body is doing all the time. We have a new stomach layer every 3 days. We're constantly in a state of transformation, and yet we cling to old ideas, old stories that don't serve us. So I love me a bit of death and rebirth.
I really subscribe to this idea of, you know, we're not human beings having a spirit experience. We're in spirit having a human experience.
And how good is that?
Yeah, right.
Like, whew, what a great choice my soul made to come into this body.
Yeah. Have you always had a sense of that?
Yeah, always.
Okay.
It's from my grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I always live it? No, because I get as caught up as anyone in the physical. I'm like, oh, this is so
Yeah.
hard and this is so painful and I'm challenged by this and I really think that that's so important when it's not and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Because that's what I find so challenging is that cognitively, I understand it, but it's the how do I do it? How do I continually step out of the story of that? And it's for
How do
me.
you? Oh, I just turned the tables then to become
I
the
love
interview.
that. I love that.
That's a good question.
Well, okay. I mean, yes, I've got some practices that I don't adhere to regularly. But I think a great example of how I try and remind myself of the illusion of that is by having these types of conversations
For sure.
and being reminded of, I can't remember how many people I've interviewed so far. It's probably 12 or 13. But honestly, Aimee, the commonalities, you could swap out the situation. Pole dancing, addiction, athletics, illness. It's the same types of themes seem to come through. So that was a big part of the motivation for me wanting to do the podcast. Was I saw, this is outside of this, maybe helping some other people reframe the things that happen to them, quote unquote, that happen to them, and provide some ease and some perhaps liberation. There's mainly a payday for me, in terms of my own healing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's a very honest answer to the question is.
And it's a wonderful one, and what a great time to be alive, because my parents weren't doing this. It wasn't really in the zeitgeist then to actually sit down and have these conversations, and now it's everywhere that we're able to go and talk about what was your experience. Oh, I experienced that too. And this is the beautiful thing about 12 step, because someone gets up and they share something and the next person gets up and go, thanks for sharing. I felt that too. And as soon as they say it and that other person hears it, that's the beginning. It's the beginning of healing, to be heard, first of all, to be seen, to be acknowledged. There's recognition that we're all in this thing. No one has it worked out, and to never, you said one of the takeaways from 12 step, what is them? Here's another one. Never compare your insides to somebody's outsides, because we're all got this churning, we've all got the desires, we've all got the process that we're in, that we need to be in for this particular soul's journey, this particular human soul journey. And that other person's in that too. And nobody's got it worked out.
Yeah.
Unless they're enlightened.
Yeah.
And perhaps not even
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
It's a tricky thing to stay on this path, I think, because you look around and everyone is interested in the accumulation of treasure or followers.
I know. And I wish we could just change that to supporters, first of all. That would change everything. I don't want people following me, but supporting, absolutely. I'll support you, you support me. It's just different
It's a different energy.
It's totally different. The following thing I don't love. And we were talking about social media, and I've really lost any kind of desire to really get on there consistently. And I think there are better, more powerful ways to connect to people. Like I do a weekly email blast instead, because it's more about what's actually happening and talking to those people who are interested in that. And then through class and through conversation, and I listen to podcasts all the time because people are just talking about the stuff, and it's so healing.
Yeah.
It's so healing. I remember when I was right in the beginning of my teaching career, I was working with someone, or I was talking to someone after class, and she was talking about her back, and I just said, well, everyone's got something. And she goes, yeah, what have you got? Because she just absolutely believed that there was nothing wrong because I was on a podium doing yoga postures. And I'm like, let's sit down and have a chat. Because I was like, there's a lot, right? There's a lot that we're all working with, and to meet everyone with that level of compassion that everyone's got their stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the best questions is, where is that in me? Because I think we live in a world where we're very quick to look at anything happening outside of us and going, I'm not that. Look at that. I would never do that. We're very judgy-wudgy.
I'll be told.
Yeah. So that's one of the best tantric questions. Where is that in me? When you see it, I know it lives in me because I'm an expression of one consciousness. One means one. Like, what I love about Tantra is it's not fluffy, because if you really want to get to the essence of it's all one, that is a big pill to swallow, and it's jagged, right? It's like Alana Morissette, right? It is a jagged little pill, because if you really subscribe to it, then you have to look at everything like war and everything that's going on and go, I can't heal it out there, but I can look at it here. And that's the only thing that I can do, is look at it in me and be brave enough and courageous enough. And, I hope when I do talk about these things and speak in class that I consciously try and bring myself into it, not in an egoic way, but I'm in this too. I'm not up here from a place of follow me. No, I'm in it and I'm working through it. And these are the things that help me. And can I offer them to you? Because, they work.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, that's part of the appeal to me, is that there's a teacher here that's willing to talk about her own stuff, and that's therapeutic. It's so powerful.
It is.
And my spidey sense is always sort of looking at individuals and asking myself, certainly in the context of the podcast, is there something that this person can give of themselves in terms of vulnerability, honesty, empathy, compassion? Because I think these aspects of us are the new currency. I think as we continue to feel isolation from each other, with, behind screens and being compelled by things that certainly at the time feel important, but really don't have any depth to them.
No.
As that tension increases, I think we'll look to more leaders that lead through compassion, empathy, honesty.
Yeah.
And so part of the appeal of having you on the podcast is to give people like you, leaders, more of a platform to talk about what's important in life. What does a well-lived life look like? What does that feel like? When everyone seems to be obsessed with these, the idolatry of accumulation, and status.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I have moments where I'm like, oh, I'm at this age and I have this amount in my account and I'm still living in a one-bedroom apartment. Like, I get caught into that. Shouldn't I be further along? And shouldn't I have more stuff? And, and my car's old and,
Which is the story, right?
Which is the story.
That's the story.
And then it's, it always comes back to, for me, it's meditation. Like, I do love the physical practice, but it's coming back to, I've got to find that peace. It's there, it's inside of me. And part of my addiction stuff was I had a massive shopping addiction for a while there as well. I said I earned all this money as an actor. I don't know where it is. I spent it, so I should have invested it, but I didn't, because I couldn't fill up. And you'd get that hit and I just remember so clearly standing on the curb, all of these bags around me, and I call my friend. I'm like, I can't stop. And she's like, get in a cab immediately. Like, this is at the height of my recovery, actually. I stopped drinking and drugging, but it was just finding new pathways because I didn't yet have anything else to hold me in that fragility and not enoughness. So I was just reaching at everything. But yeah, that it's, if we can just learn that we're not here for that. And when you were talking, you said the word currency, and I thought of, you seen Almost Famous, the film?
No.
He says, oh, you must see it, it's amazing. He says the only currency we have in this bankrupt world are the moments when we're being uncool. And I think it's probably, I'm not probably wording it like the way that it's masterfully written in the film, but that's it. Like, this is the currency when we're willing to sit down and actually put down, I mean, my teacher, Mark Bredner, talks about it all the time, is that put down the shiny business card. Like, and that was a big one for me because performance was how I gained my sense of self. and to teach from a more, I mean, it still has a performative aspect because I just can't help it, right? It's just in my nature, and I don't want to get up there and be like, I am now very serious, because it's just never going to happen.
And it's also, sorry to interrupt you, but it's also something that you've got in you that is fun and cool and exciting. And why shouldn't you use that?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And my other teacher, Tara Judell, who's been a wonderful influence and introduced me to Tantra, and that's when it really took off for me because I really love that philosophy. We were at a teacher training and she was like, "You're funny." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, you know." And she's like, "You should teach with that." And I was like, "Oh my God, I can't teach with that. Like, it's like the reverence of yoga." And she's like, "But she's so funny, but never loses what she's there to do, which is to hold space with all these wonderful teachings and practices. But she's herself, and you can't. I learned to not hold back that part of who I am, because get me in front of a room full of people, and I'm so full of energy. I just can't. I just I want to share these things, and I love having those big laughs with a room full of people.
Yeah.
Because yes, we connect through pain, but God, do we connect through joy? And that's what really interests me.
What do you think this is all about? I mean, we come to Earth, as incarnated soul. Why?
To have an experience.
As simple as that?
Yeah. We're here to have it's like, what is the meaning of life? Well, there isn't really any. We can attach lots of meaning to it. You can make up a whole lot of stuff, but we're here to have an experience. We, as a soul, went, I gotta get human because I get to feel the sun on my skin. I get to hear music. How cool is that? I can't do it without a body. So I think our soul is dying to get here and to have the experience. And there's a wonderful thing from Alan Watts. He talks about it, and he talks about that. You came here just dying to see what it was all about, and then you get caught up in all of this stuff that doesn't mean anything, and we forget how amazing it is. And I think it's as simple as that. Like, open the gates of your senses, let life in. If there's music playing, hear it. If there's pie in front of you, taste it. I think we're here for the experience, and that includes massive grief, public humiliation, whatever it is that you're getting, that there is a bliss state wrapped up in all of it. Because from the tantric tradition, it's like, if you're not seeing everything as a gift, then you're missing the point. And that means the hardest, most gnarly stuff as well.
Yeah.
I think we're here for an experience.
Yeah. Do you think the difficult experiences are part of the curriculum? Are they there by design? I do play with the idea of
For sure.
This is kind of a curriculum, like, and maybe my life's course has got nothing to do with anything random. There was a curriculum that was put together for my specific soul to follow from birth to death.
By you.
By me. Yeah.
100%. We're here, like I said, we're here for all of the flavors. So you can't miss out on the challenging part of the curriculum, because that leads to the most beautiful, if we really go into it and meet it as, what is life trying to teach me, rather than, oh, that happened again. I'm such a victim. This sort of stuff always happens to me. And then we just stay stuck because you're going to get it again, right?
Yeah.
You're going to date that same person over and over 100%. And over and over. Not necessarily the exact same, but they're going to be the same.
Swap the face.
Right.
Same
oh my
same
God,
circumstances.
you're exactly the same.
Yep.
I know you.
Yep.
Right? Until you learn what it is. I had that exact experience. I dated the same. I got engaged to the same guy. They were two different men, obviously, but they were almost identical in so many ways. And then, I kept getting attracted to it. And I could pick them out in a room. I'd be, that's the one, and they'd be terrible for me, until I started to heal what it was teaching me, and what it was, because I was attracting people who were ultimately not going to love me, because the message was, I have to generate that from myself. And during that whole time of COVID and all that sort of stuff, I mean, I didn't date or anything for like 3 years, and it was a lot of learning to love myself, because it got stripped away from me in so many ways. And again, did I choose that? Of course. Of course I got that lesson. And the wonderful thing about the yoga community and what happened is I think, I mentioned that I got some apologies from people and things like that. And there were some honest conversations that have happened since. And there's been a softening around that and a regroup and a forgiving, in all directions. We were squeezed. We were being squeezed. So, yeah.
The other thing that I do suspect that is part of the design of this experience is forgetting and remembering. You mentioned the word remembering a little earlier. And I made a mental note to come back to that because I often find that whenever I stumble upon an answer or I have a situation is reconciled to a point where I'm sort of satisfied with it, I'll always find, if I sit with that for long enough, I kind of think, I already knew that.
Yeah.
I think I already knew that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nice to be reminded of that, but, deep inside, there's this awareness that some part of me was already aware of that. Does that resonate for you in any way?
100%. Yeah, because again, it comes back to the fact that we are a cell within a unified body, right? So the cell holds all the information of the whole body. We know that from a biological perspective. So it's the same thing. If I'm holding everything that exists in the universe inside of me, and I am, from the most bliss to the most horrifying, then it's all in here to be pulled out again and to be remembered through all of these different experiences. You go, yeah, of course. It is a constant remembering of who we really are, which is an expression of God consciousness. You could say a child of the divine. Doesn't matter what you call it. That's what we are. And I don't know if you listen to Zach Bush much. Do you listen? Yeah, he's wonderful. And something that I listened to recently and that I love is that, he spent a lot of time in hospice. So he would have relationships with people who pass and then come back again. And they say two things. First of all, that they had an overwhelming feeling of acceptance when they crossed over that they never felt here, because that's there, right? We're here it's here, but we get caught in the body so much that we don't remember. And then we cross over and we're like, that's right. Yeah, so we do have this opportunity through spiritual practice to remember it while we're here. But then he also said that we pass and we know who we are. Like, not as Aimee, or Francis, we don't know, yes, but as a soul, we know who we are. And we know where we've done, what we've done. We know where we're going, so that I think it's really beautiful to remember that the soul really is here, kind of in charge of everything. And the more we tune into that, call it soul, call it in knowing, whatever it is, but we find it in the peace. We find it in the stillness inside of us. It's not in the erratic mind space. Erratical, just made up a new word. It's not there. It's in the stillness. It's in the heart. And when we drop into that, we remember.
Yeah.
But life is going to jolt you again and again and again to dissolve the attachments to those things that we're not.
Yeah. What's your go-to move, when you are jolted, when you find yourself attached?
Tub of ice cream.
When you feel yourself, attached and clinging and maybe a little bit contracted, do you have a little formula that you kind of rip out, right? Half an hour meditation and a yoga practice.
Oh, I wish it was as spiritual as that. Sometimes I have a big cry. I often share with someone. I need to speak things.
Yeah.
Then it tends to dissipate for me. Yeah. I might have to go into that story and regurgitate it a couple of times. And then my practice is daily, so that's always something. It's like that's always there as something that I would go to. I wouldn't do anything extra, but the more I keep that consistent, the more it holds when I get jolted, which I do on the regular. Like, it's because I'm human, but it's less and less intense. Like I remember when I was in my 20s, I mean, I was just a shit show. Like just a mess. Loads of fun, you know, lots going on, lots of, but just all over the shop. And I drank and drugged to bring out that kind of performer person who I felt I could love.
Yeah.
And what I guess admire about myself and I'm happy, really happy with, is that I don't need to use any substances to feel that. And that it's a fairly regular state of being. And then it will go, but the baseline is quite self-loving and you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a little while it certainly took me a while to realize that. It's interesting, you know, like words like, I still feel some contraction when I use words like healing and the work, you know, and self-love. There's still a little part of me that goes, okay, that's a well-used, overused trope, you know.
It sure
and
is,
I can just imagine there are thousands of eyeballs rolling every time I say, oh, he's doing the work. Oh my golly, more of the work.
You've got to do the work. Where is this work? What is it?
You know what I mean? And I have to think, what is the work? But
every day of your life, that's the work.
Right.
You know, it's not like separate from anything else. Like yoga, meditation, it's all one spiritual practice as much as how you meet the guy who makes you coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Like it's every day. You know, I don't have a spiritual life and then my other life.
Yeah.
It's all just one big mosh pit of learning.
yeah.
And growing and shedding. And yes, absolutely healing. I know some people do have an issue with the word healing because they're like, but I'm not broken. And it's like, no, you're not. But we all have wounding. It's just the nature of being in this physical realm and the constructs that we're dealing with. We all subscribe to things that we're not, and it's going to hurt. But yeah, so I kind of love the word healing. I think it's really beautiful and soft and gentle. I don't know if I use doing the work so much, but I think practice for me is because I get asked by students, well, how do I do this? How do I practice? I mean, it really does come down to that. You know, all of the philosophy, how do I achieve that? Practice, you know?
Yeah.
And some days I sit down to meditate and I would rather stick needles in my eyeballs than do that. Right? There's such a resistance that comes up because that's the ego's job. It's there to resist and it's there to fight for its own existence and it's there to convince you, and you know, it's the trickster to trick you that you're not, don't go and do that, says the ego. You know, like do this instead. And so it's that real discipline. We talk about it in yoga, the tapas, you know, sit down and do it. And some days I'm like, and other days I'm loving it, you know, it depends, but the consistency is everything.
Yeah, yeah. I think two things come up for me when I pause with those words now. The first is, what is that showing me about me? The fact that I still feel some sort of contraction. There's still some sort of, what do people think when I say those words? You know, particularly coming from the industry that I came from, right? So there's some contraction there, and I kind of go, okay, I wonder what that's showing me. I mean, that in itself is showing me this whole expanse of me that maybe needs to be looked at, you know. And then the other thing that comes up for me when I recoil from that or feel contraction is, that's someone else's problem. You know what I mean? Like if someone doesn't resonate with those words, I can't think of a better one. You know, I can't think of, if someone can come up with a better word than healing, which I think says a lot, I'll use that. But up until then, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also we're so not in charge of, you know, what's going on out there in other people's, you know, minds. I mean, one of the wonderful things that I think has held me through a lot is this truth that nothing exists outside of your own awareness, right? Because by definition you wouldn't be aware of it. But people tend to think there's a world outside of me, and I'm like, how do you know it's there? Like, oh, I see it. Oh, you see it. Oh, but I touch it. Oh, you touch it. So everything's in your awareness. You cannot escape it. right? So anybody's opinion of you is the same thing. It's all just happening in them. And it's when people are projecting all of their stuff onto us, and it's painful as fuck sometimes. That's what I try and remember. Equally, when I'm in the judgy-wudgy, this is all just happening in my awareness. And relationships teach me that. My relationship with my partner, and what I'm learning to say to him is, I'm making this up in my head, and that this is what happened, and how it makes me feel is this, rather than you did this, you did, like, because I don't even know if that's true or real. I'm certainly experiencing it this way. Can I do that all the time? No. Sometimes I'm ferocious, as I mentioned in the car. I can get, I've got a very foul temper. But learning to do that. What I'm making up is this, and how that made me feel is this. When you did that, what I make up is this, rather than this is reality, because we're just seeing it through 5,000 freaking lenses of what we've been conditioned, and that none of that is really real. I mean, it's a level of reality, but
it's an illusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I did a teacher training. I've done so many teacher trainings, so I just keep talking about the teacher trainings. But you learn so much, and the teacher put a flower in the middle of the room, and he said, "What color is that?" We all went around the room. This is a group of yoginis as well. And we're arguing over it. Oh, it's pink, it's fuchsia. No, it's red. And I'm like, hey, red, are you kidding? Like, over a flower. That's what we're doing out there. We're just fighting for our reality to be the reality.
Yeah.
Which is, we got a war over it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most people, particularly myself, most people, I suspect, miss the moment of the here and now, on the basis, on the promise that there is some future moment that is going to be better than the one available right now.
Yes.
And I think back
very,
to
very
the
sneaky.
days and the weeks and the months and probably the years that have accumulated in my life that I've sacrificed on the altar of not right now, because tomorrow or in a week we're going to really get the payoff.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Do you see that at play in people's lives?
It's how we operate.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're either thinking about what's happened and pulling it with us
Dragging it with us
into the future. Wayne Dyer says it so beautifully. The wake doesn't drive the ship. It never has, and it never will. So why do you keep trying to drag it back from there and go, well, this will be my future, So, and then we're thinking about, where am I going? What am I doing? And when I get to that point, and, then everything will be fine. It will never happen. Like, there's never a place where we're going to land and we're done. But we all subscribe to that. I'm going to get to this point. And then, I had it with athletics. I'll get to this point. Is that it? I get to the acting. Is that it? Like, we're doing that all the time. Because as soon as we get what we want, the reason why we crave things so much is that in the moment of getting it, like, it's a brief moment, but in that moment, you're momentarily enlightened, because you're just not wanting anything for a moment, because you just got it. And you go, oh, I want that now.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's, because we think we keep wanting all this stuff or circumstance or wanting to get over there. I think what we ultimately want as a soul is to stop wanting. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why we crave, because if I get that, I'll stop wanting. If I achieve that, I'll stop wanting. And it's just never going to come unless, again, we come back to the inner space, because that's, you can stop wanting right now, but we need to pause and stop and come back to what's humming inside of us, which is this, it's such a sweetness. It's such a bliss that I achieve every so often when I meditate. Sometimes I'm just sitting there going, I'm in the thick of it. I'm in the mind shit. I'm thinking about, what do I have to do? And if I can just get there. Look, it happened to me recently. I put my back out. And I kept saying to my partner, in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to have a really good rest. Like, what the hell? It's like, how many years do I have to be doing this stuff to actually get it? Because you'll get it. There's layers. We forget, 12-step, layers of the onion. You're never really done, because then you'll just be more in-depth work around that issue, right? So, I was like planning for this big rest that was coming when certain things, the chessboard, the pieces moved into this place. And then my body just went, fuck you. Honestly, it just did. It went, you are out. Because it can't sustain how it did when I was in my 20s, that perpetual ignoring and pushing. It can't sustain it anymore. I'm not at that age and stage. So which is a good thing, right? Because the body starts going, you need to awaken spiritually. I'll just shut down. That's the nature of aging. I mean, that's why we get it, because at some point we have to start not disassociating so much, but unraveling our attachment to this, right? But it's such a powerful teacher. So it just like stopped me in my tracks, because I was doing that. When I get there, I will then achieve a rest, a nap, because I was just working.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
You've certainly, based on the conversation we've had today, you've had a number of, I guess you'd call them comebacks.
Yes, many, yeah.
What do you think the greatest comeback is for anyone, not just yourself, but for anyone?
Well, I think you opened with it. And it's the thing that drives everything that I offer as a teacher, and certainly everything that I practice as well, is the great comeback is a return to self. It's a return to the true nature, whatever you want to call that. It's coming home. Because I think we're all seeking that refuge somewhere else. And it's just so, it's like in my fingertips right now. It's in my heart. Like I was practicing this morning. I was just doing a little bit of the moves in class, because I haven't been able to move for a while. So I was like, having movement taken away from you and then gifted back, I was like, oh my God. Like it was a new sense of wonderment. I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever, that I can do that. I want that for people. That's the comeback. Come back to how freaking amazing you are. You are a miracle. You are walking in the most complex architecture and technology on this planet. And we've convinced ourselves that we're nothing, and that we're not enough, and that we're flawed in some way. So I think that's the comeback. Come back to the true essence of who you are. It's exquisite. We're walking sunlight. If we really saw our own beauty, we'd be blinded. Yeah.
That feels like the perfect place to end the conversation.
It does, yeah.
What, before I let you go, what's in store for you? What are you working on? How do people get in touch with you if they want to get in contact and leverage your teachings and your practices?
Well, the best way is, we just talked about social media and how I don't love it so much, but you can definitely follow me on Instagram, which is just Aimee Pedersen. I have a retreat coming up, which I'm very excited about. It's called the Soul Fire Retreat, and it's pretty much based on everything that we talked about, because I went off path. I went off the path of soul. I was like, maybe I should do something else, and it was just a disaster. And how wonderful the return is when you follow your joy and you follow your bliss, and because that's the barometer. So it's all about that. It's in Byron Bay in November, and it's going to be beautiful. We're already halfway full. And you can also just email as well. I have a website called One Nectar Yoga. You can contact me through that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's a book in the works, I understand.
There is a book in the works.
We can't talk about it?
We can talk about it for sure. No, it's basically my journey through yoga, but it's funny, right? It's anecdotal, because that's how I love to write. It's like how I broke my nose and traveling through India and all the crazy shit that happened to me that led to me to understand, this and that. And yeah, I hopefully, because there are a lot of yoga books. So it's, yes, a teaching book, but it's also wickedly funny stories in there as well. Yeah, I haven't really got a title for it, but I've called it, my working title is the Diary of the Yogi on the Brink of Sanity, because that's what we're, we say we're on the brink of insanity.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I think I'm on the brink of sanity. I think I'm getting there. Yeah.
I can't wait for it.
Yeah, me too.
Aimee, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Such a privilege.
I like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I think you're a walking permission slip. You know, you really, certainly from my point of view, you live as the fullest expression of you. You don't hold anything back, and that encourages other people. Certainly encourages me. It gives me impetus and desire to actually live as the fullest expression of me by seeing others take the lead. So, thank you for all the work you do, and thank you for leading.
Thank you, and thank you for that beautiful acknowledgement. Makes it all worthwhile.
Thanks, Aimee. Bye.
Thank you.